Cool. So this workshop is called Creating Energy Margins in Your Life. We're being brought to you by Talent Trust. So Talent Trust recognize that the challenges of missions life can limit the impact of a missionary's ministry. So we provide missionaries the resources to stay physically, mentally, and financially healthy so they can thrive as long as needed in their calling. We've recently launched a pilot of something called our FiTT program, which aims to improve the physical health of missionaries, of which today's speaker, Siree, is one of our main trainers. Siree is a certified coach and personal trainer. She's a passion to not just encourage others to take care of their health, but to empower them by giving them the tools they need to be their best. Along with her husband, Sang, she's founded the Bangkok Christian Discipleship Center, which provides a free venue and wonderful services for ministries there in Bangkok. Siree is, or was a TCK, having lived and studied internationally for much of her school years. She's also a mom to now 3 children. So Siree, welcome. Thank you for running this workshop for us today.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I'm really excited to be here.
Cool. So as I mentioned, our FiTT service, I know we're about 4 weeks into the FiTT program, and I just wondered how you are getting on with your pilot cohort. Do you have any highlights or anything that you could kind of share with us about how it's going?
Sure. This is such a great, initiative that Nathan has started, getting us together to do cohorts. And for my cohort, we're more of a health group coaching type of cohort. So we're not like exercising together, but it's been such a blessing to see people engaging together each week, sharing their journey of being healthier. So for us, the group format is really interesting, and you'll experience it here a little bit because the group coaching format really does draw from wisdom from different people in different life stages. So you really have this enriching experience of people sharing. So it's not just me talking at people, it's really me facilitating the process of helping people share knowledge of how they can get healthier together around one health topic each week. Yeah, it's been really great.
Cool, thanks. That's really great. Okay, so let me get on. Let you get on with the workshop and tell us how we can all, create energy margins in our lives.
Wonderful, thank you. So let me share my screen. So I'd like you guys to first make sure that I am pinned and you're seeing my screen clearly. Everybody okay? Good. Okay, great. So first of all, before we start, I just want to give you a word of warning. This workshop can really change your life if you allow yourself to be changed. And I want you to be interacting with me as I'm going through this. I don't want this to be a lecture where it's just a one-way thing. I'm just speaking at you. I want you to really, use the chat functions, use the reaction button on the bottom right. You'll see this reaction thing. If, for example, let's try it right now. Will you allow yourself to be challenged? Show me some reactions. Awesome. Nice. Okay. So making sure that everybody sees my screen and I can get all of this to show up. Okay. So make sure that I'm in speaker view and you can see me. All good. Today, if you're in the right workshop, today's workshop is called Creating Energy Margins for Your Life. So I am, as Nathan has introduced me, I am a personal trainer, a health coach, and fitness nutrition specialist. And actually, this workshop was inspired because people asked me how I managed to do so many things. I serve as a mom, serve as a wife, serve my businesses. I have a couple of businesses and serve at church. People ask me how I'm able to have enough energy to do all these things. But today, I just want to share with you how it's all about the choices we make. And I will share with you the principles in terms of making those choices for making energy margins for your life. I am a mom. This is my family. Sang's also in the Zoom call. We love going to the Thailand's beaches. We have so many beautiful beaches that one day when the lockdown's over, we will go and enjoy again. I have 3 kids, a 15-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And it's been really a privilege for me to be able to share with many people doing this energy margin workshop to really try to help people, challenge them when they think about, time management. How do I manage my time better so I can get more things done? And I want to challenge people because it's not really about time management. And I'll share with you a little bit more about why it's really about energy management. But before we get started, can you type in the chat, in this season of life, what is your battery like right now? What percentage are you on? From 0 to 100, where are you right now? Just type in the chat. Okay, 50, 60, 95, 70, 85, 75. Good. Average 70. Great. So you're doing pretty good. Nobody's below 50. That's good. Any 50, below 50? No, y'all doing really good. Great. All right. So if you had more energy, what would you do? You type that in the chat. If you had more energy, what would you do? Do more work. Okay. Spend time with children, travel if there's no COVID. Yeah. Children, study more. Okay. Travel, read more, paint your house. Wow. Exercise more, play with my son, travel, play music, learn new language. Okay. Be more adventurous. That's a good one. Exercise, follow up on some dreams. That's good. Do farming. Nice. Yeah. So see, my question is not if you had more time, what would you do, right? My question is, if you had more energy, what would you do? Because even if you had more time, would you do all these activities? Not necessarily if you don't have enough energy, right? Write a book. Nice. Kevin says write a book. Yeah, so it's not really about time alone. It's not either or, right? Yes, we need time. We need to be able to allocate our schedule, plan our days, but we also need to put in the energy to fill those days. So think about it this way. Time, you can't really manage time. We talk about time management all the time. But what does manage mean? Manage means when you're able to manage something, you can contract it, you can expand it, you can move it around, you can change it. But time, can we do any of that with time? No, because time is fixed. It's a given amount of time that we're given on earth, right? We are under time. God is above time, but we are under time. So we can't really technically manage time. What we can manage is the energy that we put in our time that we have on earth. So here, when I talk about health with my clients, I'm a health coach, so I don't just focus on the physical health. People are really more than just a physical shell. And that's really the principle that I use to coach my clients. First Timothy chapter 4, verse 8 says, physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and the life to come. So here it really challenges us to think that, yes, physical training is good. Our physical body is important, but we are so much more than just our physical shell. And at the core, we are spirit. And a person is really many different layers together that make us a whole. So in this whole person wellness model, what I call the wellness wheel, I want you to picture a tire, right? A nice, fully inflated tire. And the outer shell is the physical tire that we see, that we interact with the world with. But beyond that, and under that, we have the emotional layer, we have the intellectual layer, we have the social layer or relationships, environmental layer, and very importantly, spiritual layer. So if all the layers of this tire are fully, nicely, beautifully inflated, we're able to roll down nicely this road, a smooth road, right? The tire can roll down really nicely. But if a few of those layers are deflated, the tire becomes what? What does it look like? It looks a little bit wonky, right? It looks a little bit lopsided. So even if you have a smooth road in front of you, it's going to be hard to roll down the smooth road. But life isn't always smooth. We have potholes, we have speed bumps, we have obstacles in the way. So if you have a wonky and wobbly, lopsided tire, it's going to be really hard to roll down that road smoothly. So my goal as a health coach is to help people identify which layers they feel most deflated. And when we work on those layers that are deflated, we're able to really be more whole. We're able to identify areas where we need to inject more energy, inject more power. And I'm going to talk to you about where that source of power comes from. And I think you know already, but this is a really good place for us to stop and really think about that we are more than just our physical bodies. And as Christians, we know that. So when I coach people who aren't Christians, this is something that is really kind of opens their eyes up that, yes, I need to care about my emotional health. Yes, I need to care about my relationships and my spiritual health as well. So if I go too fast, feel free to stop me, put in the chat any questions. Okay, I really want this to be interactive, but if nothing, I'm just going to keep going. So the 3 pillars of wellness is really about you making decisions. Let me move my... 3 pillars of wellness is about you making decisions about your daily living, your movement, your nutrition, and your rest. And how well you invest in these 3 pillars of wellness will affect how much energy you have to serve others. So today, what we're going to learn is that you will be able to reframe that problem of time management and work-life balance as energy management. See, when we make the wrong assumptions, we're going to solve the wrong problem. When we assume that we have to solve the problem with time management, we're going to try to manage our time only, and that's not really going to answer the problem in a complete way that actually gives us more energy and more joy to serve others. So you're going to be able to reframe that problem you think is time management to be a problem called energy management. And you'll be able to learn techniques to create margins for yourself, to have energy in your life to serve others better. We're going to go through what is the source of energy for us to live this life. And secondly, we're going to talk about managing flows and margins of energy, and then how to create energy surplus. So imagine this, in life, you are given a bowl. We are all given a bowl. We have a fixed size bowl, a fixed amount of time. Like I mentioned earlier, we cannot change that amount of time. We cannot extend life. We cannot help make ourselves live longer, no matter what the world tries to tell us, to increase our longevity. We know that God has fixed a date for us to go home, right? We cannot extend our lives, but we can control the quality that we have in our lives. Stephen Covey says that the challenge is not to manage time, but to manage ourselves. And specifically for this workshop, it's about managing ourselves by making choices and changes to better manage our energy. And I'll show you a model of margins and flow in life for you to manage your energy within this fixed amount of time that we're given. Now, see, we have this one big bowl that God gives us, right? This is the big bowl, but these little bowls represent the different areas of our life that we can control. This central bowl is us, ourselves, our lives, our body. And these are the different areas of our lives. And we're receiving, as Christians, we're receiving the source from God, the power from the Holy Spirit to live that life. Now, let me ask you to guess what these other smaller bowls are. Can you guess? Can you type in the chat? What do you think these other bowls are? What areas of life? Work, good, work. Work comes up first. Family, ministry, work, okay. Challenges, okay. Social, that's good. Relationships, yeah. So I'll reveal the answer in a little bit, but good job. Work definitely comes up. Work's definitely the obvious one. Work, sleep, okay. The wellness wheel, okay. Rest, good. So over 20 years ago, I was in college and Sizzlers was just new to Thailand, and it was a really big popular thing. And whenever I went to Thammasat, which is near the river, if you guys recognize where Thammasat is, and there's the mall near Thammasat, which is Central Pin Klao. And way back when, we were able to fit maybe 8 people in a cab. I don't know how we did that, but we stuffed everybody in a cab. So after an exam or before the holidays, we go celebrate. It was either Fuji, a Japanese restaurant, or Sizzlers. Now Sizzlers was fun because we get this buffet, right? The salad buffet. Who loves buffets? I love buffets. Yeah. So we get this little bowl, right? And it was fun to go to the salad bar. Now you can go back and forth as many times as you want, but I don't know, for whatever reason, back then we're like, we're going to stack it as high as possible, right? We're going to stuff it as much as possible. We're going to, go a foot high on food. Now the stacking up wasn't hard, right? It wasn't actually hard to stack the food up if you have a good technique. But the difficult part was actually eating the food off your plate without making a big mess, right? How do you manage to eat from this bowl when you get to the table without making a huge mess and having something fall off? Well, there's two choices. You can add less food, walk back and forth a few more times rather than go all at once, or you can use another bowl. Now, this analogy is really about our life. Our bowl that we have is really the life and the energy tank or capacity that we each have. And the food represents the demands and responsibilities that we pack on. And like I said, it's easy to pack it on, but to be able to manage that in a graceful way, in a way that you don't get frustrated and stress and distress, is another story, right? So what are options in our real life for us to deal with this problem of demand exceeding supply? We go through life having demands put on us that we feel either responsible to take on, we feel a sense of guilt to take on. So what can we do to lower that load? Well, we have two choices. We can either say no to the demands or share the burden with others, knowing that we don't have to do it all by ourselves, or we can increase our energy tank. So when we have this big, messy bowl of responsibilities, when our bowl is overflowing with this messy amount of things we need to do, we can get into a state of stress, and not just stress, but distress. And those in my cohort would understand what the difference is, stress and distress is, because you never really want to get into a state of distress. Stress can be good. It can motivate you to be productive. It can motivate you to do new things, do things out of your comfort zone. But when you get to a state of distress, that's when you're totally paralyzed. Now, for me, way back when I used to run a design company, it was a multimedia design company. Before I was a Christian, I was pretty much a slave to my clients. I started off working just by myself as a freelance, and work was good. People were telling other people to come to me. So it kind of like my company expanded pretty quickly in a short amount of time. So I had to hire people and increase my team. So I was really feeling proud from the outside. Yeah, I'm doing really good for myself. I've always wanted to do design. I wanted to run a business, and I felt proud. And I that was my idol, right? So, and then my clients were my idol because I was a slave to them. If they wanted something, I'm going to do it for them right away. I was sleeping every day at 3 a.m. I didn't care much about my health because, as the Thai proverb says, that, when the tide comes in, you just got to get it. You got to get a bucket. You got to get that water when the tide comes in. So that was my analogy. It's like, I'm still young. I can just, keep working. I would try to do my responsibilities as a mom, cook for the kids, cook for Sang, get them to bed. And then I would calculate, how many hours do I have left? 2, 3. I have 7 more hours to work. No problem. I have the energy. I'll sleep when I'm dead. You might be familiar with a Bon Jovi song, I'll sleep when I'm dead. That was like my anthem. Let me just do this work. And then when I'm old, I'll rest, I'll retire rich and fine. And so that was me. But after I became a Christian, God really convicted me that was not the way to live. I was a slave to my work. I was a slave to money. I was a slave to my clients. I was a slave to success. And I was killing myself, not just physically, but spiritually. So I've learned a big lesson from that. So when we have margin, what can we do? Why do we want to have margins in the first place? I think before we even go on about creating margins, we have to know why. What's the purpose of having life margins, energy margins? Because we want to be available to God. We want to be available for God. We need margins in 3 main areas: our emotional energy, our physical energy, our finances as well. And when you have margins and surpluses in these areas, you will be able to serve better. Any questions so far? Feel free to type in the chat. So do you think you are living a marginless life? So here are some signs and symptoms of marginless living. Maybe you're thinking, why me again? Why does this have to be put on me again? What about me? How come nobody cares about what I want? How come nobody asks me how I'm feeling? this is not fair. Maybe these thoughts go through your head and you're physically exhausted. You might want to avoid people and you can't even remember the last time you really laughed. Well, if this is you and you're easily irritable more than usual, somebody has kind of, maybe your husband, your wife has said, hey, what's going on? You just seem extra moody lately. Maybe your children have said something. Those are maybe red flags that you are living a marginless life. So I want to encourage you that if you are struggling with that pain of marginless living and you're trying to do it all in your own strength, there is a better way. In life, we're given resources to store it, right? We have things that we consider resources, money, assets, time. But one of the resources that we kind of overlook is health or energy. And as a health coach, my goal is to help clients use their health as a resource to serve others. And an important part of taking care of your health is not just managing money, assets, and time, but it's really knowing how to manage your energy. Now, when your energy, okay, so I'm actually an economics student, so I like talking about supply and demand. So this is just one of the models I've come up with in terms of dealing with when demand exceeds supply. So we talked about the bowl analogy. When our demand exceeds the amount we're able to supply, we get into a state of distress. Now, what does that distress look like? It can happen suddenly, or it can happen gradually. You may remember back in February, there was this huge winter storm, Uri, that came into Texas. And when it came in, it knocked out around a third of Texas's electricity generating capacity. So almost 3 million Texans were without power, including a quarter of all homes in Dallas. 1.4 million homes in the Houston metropolis area were without power. So that's what we call a sudden surge in demand. There was a huge demand in power. And when that demand comes all at once, suddenly it paralyzes the whole system. But demand can also come in a very gradual way. Now, my husband and I had watched this Netflix show called New Amsterdam. And maybe you guys are familiar with it. New Amsterdam is a show about doctors in this hospital called New Amsterdam. And there's this Dr. Bloom, and she is head of the ER. So, ER is very fast paced. You got to be on your feet. You got to think fast. You got to solve problems all the time, one thing after the other. So what Dr. Bloom she actually had ADHD. So she was taking a drug called Adderall to keep her, focused. But because there was this huge surge in the ER, there was a demand for help. There was an accident. I don't remember exactly, but there's an accident where there were so many people coming in through the ER that she could not get any rest. She couldn't even lie down for 2 minutes and then somebody would call and get her. So she took more Adderall than what she should have taken. So that led her to make very dangerous and risky decisions. And in the end, she had to say, I got to step away. I got to, take care of myself. So she had to remove herself from the situation. So see, even though it's a gradual increase in demand, if not addressed, it can still lead to the same paralyzing result as a sudden surge in demand. So here, as we're talking and going through this workshop, I hope that this will help you think about your own lives, reflect back as well. Okay, where am I in my demand and supply? Am I able to stop right now where I feel like I'm really experiencing a case of just too much demand and I can't cope? Am I feeling stressed? Am I living marginlessly? So I want you to really, as you're listening to me, and then you'll get a chance to discuss with others, where am I right now? Do I have enough margins in my life? But of course, if you have physical health issues, if you feel, yes, I do feel extra exhausted, I do feel extra irritable, there could be physical issues going on too. So that's why before we talk about how to create energy margins, please do first rule out any chronic health issues. If you have chronic illnesses or any other issues that make you feel extraordinarily or unusually exhausted, it could be a physical issue. Because when your body is physically sick, it does take energy to heal. So do let your body heal first before even trying to organize the other parts of your life, because you need to take care of that first. Now, if you've ruled out any physical issues, then you can try managing your energy supply and distribution to serve out, to pour out to others. So we're going to identify the source of energy. We're going to manage the flow of our energy into different areas in our life. Have you guys played this game, Where's My Water? So Where's My Water is like a fun game where this crocodile is trying to take a shower. For example, here he's trying to take a shower, but he has a big plumbing problem because the water is not going into his piping. And so our goal is to try to redirect the water into the piping so that he gets his shower. So in the same way, it is us about redirecting this flow of water in places where we're called to serve. How do we fix those leaks? How do we manage the flow of our energy? And as Christ followers, we have to recognize these two main principles of energy management. Number one, recognize that the main source of energy is not from us, right? We need God. Our power comes from God. John 15, verse 4 reminds us to abide in God, and as he abides in us, a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. And 1 Chronicles 29:11 reminds us that yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty. Indeed, everything that is in the heavens and the earth, yours is the dominion, O Lord, and you exalt yourself as head over all. So that is the main core heart of this, that we need to recognize that it is from him. Energy, power comes from God when we serve. And if we don't recognize that, we are not going to serve by bearing the fruit that God wants to bear in our lives. And secondly, when we recognize that, we can choose where to transfer that power, where to transfer that energy. We need wisdom to be able to allot that energy, allot our giftings in the way that God wants. So ask God to teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. So here is a model to visualize energy flows and distributions and energy margins for you. So this is how I like to visualize the flow. That's your life, that's your bowl. And here are the different areas of life that we have. So it starts off with us. We're in the middle, receiving the infilling of the Holy Spirit, God's power into our lives. And we choose to flow that out to our community, our neighbors, our neighborhood, our church, our family and friends, and our work. Okay, so there's just a flow that we are choosing to flow out into these different areas. And then the margins, oops, let me go back. And these margins are basically how big these little bowls are. So in this model, as I'm showing you here, it's going to be the same size, but for each person, it's going to be different. Your family and friend bowl might be bigger. Your church bowl might be bigger. Your community bowl might be smaller. Whatever the case, the margins are these blue areas out here where we have margins to expand and contract the bowls in our lives. And I like to visualize it this way because we need to remember that Jesus is really our living water, and he gives us his energy and our power as we draw power and strength from him. We also need to ask for wisdom in how to distribute into the different areas of our lives. Any questions so far? And I want to encourage you that your bowl and somebody else's bowl will look very different because God has made it so uniquely different. So don't compare your bowl with somebody else's bowl. You may think, oh, how come she can do so much at church, but I can't do that? And you start feeling bad, that you feel guilt that how come they can do so much, but I can't do, because our lives are different. Maybe you have 5, 6 kids at home and that person is single professional. I mean, that makes sense, right? They have more time during the weekends to serve, whereas you have to take care of your very first disciples in your home, your children. So don't feel bad. Don't be condemned by guilt when you feel like you can't serve in the same way another person serves. So how you manage your energy will be unique to you. And I'm going to teach you principles of creating margins, but you yourself have to plan your own energy margins. Imagine you are the manager of a vineyard, right? And if you've seen vineyards, they have these taps of irrigation. And these taps are basically, you have control of these taps, whether you turn the tap on, how much you turn, how much you open the tap, how much you regulate the volume. So if you notice here, the arrows are actually a two-way arrow, right? We receive from God, and it's a two-way arrow. So sometimes when we're serving, we're actually receiving. We are receiving our main source of energy and power from God. But when you're serving at church, maybe you feel energized because you're exercising your spiritual gift. When you're evangelizing, when you're sharing the gospel, you're going out and pouring out into your community, you're feeling energized because you're exercising your spiritual gifts. And so you're able to also restore power back that way. Now it's up to you to recognize which activities in which season of your life allows you to exercise your spiritual gifts, allows you to draw more power and energy from those activities. And it's up to you to imagine these little bowls having a faucet that you can regulate, turning on, turning off the taps into the different areas of your life. So what options do you have as you look at this model? I want you to think about choices. We always want to recognize that we have a choice and our lives are made up of the choices that we make. So think about what choices. You have a choice to say no to demands that come your way or share the burdens for things that you can't do by yourself. B, increase the capacity for your energy tank, or C, redirect energy from one area to another. For example, if your work life is really draining you and it's affecting your relationship with your family, maybe that's something you have to consider to make a choice and a change to honor God and to honor your calling as well. It's about living a life of intention and self-control and not just going with the flow. Again, don't compare yourself to other people. You each have a unique calling that God tells you to do. So it's important for you to recognize your own intentional planning and self-control in how you want to choose to manage your energy. And in a way, I want you to think of energy as a currency of how you budget your spending. How do you budget your energy in different areas? So if Marcus could open up this poll about how you flow your energy into different areas of life. From 0 to 100%, how much energy would you estimate you give to these following areas? There's the personal leisure activities, there's community, there's family, there's school or work, and there's church. Take some time and take the poll. Yeah. Yep. Nathan has a good point. He says, even though these are two-way arrows, I guess some of these, for some of us, will really be mostly just a one-way energy drain. Yeah. It's good to take that first step of recognizing where we're feeling drained. Okay, interesting to see. So most people give less than 25% of your week to personal free time. Okay, that's what I like to call a fun tank to make it easy to understand. Do you do something fun for yourself, something pleasurable, leisurely, just for the sake of it? So most people have very little time for that. To work, more than 50%. Okay. To church, less than 25%. Okay. So I hope this was a good way for you to kind of think about the breakdown of the different activities in your life and reflect back as we're going to go into breakout rooms in a little bit here. Just as you answer those questions, you must have thought in your mind, oh, I didn't really recognize that there was I spent that much time on work or not that much time at all on myself, my personal time. So what are some competing demands right now in your life? And where do you want to make changes? So Marcus is going to let you into your breakout room. So take about 5 minutes to discuss. And if you can choose a representative from each of the rooms, just to share a little bit about what you guys talked about.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
Everybody out? Okay. So I hope that this session here is giving you principles to make decisions that are unique to you. And again, don't compare your bowl with another person's bowl. You never know what's going on in their bowl, right? Thank you, Pat, for reminding us of that. Do we have one more group?
We're done with all the groups.
Okay, thank you. Go back. So managing our energy flows and margins really requires us to make choices and changes in our lives. And sometimes those choices and changes can be drastic. They can really change our life for the better, hopefully. Like when I actually quit my company, I actually had to restructure that company. I was doing design and multimedia. I put that on hold. I had to let go of my staff because I knew that what I was doing, and God sent me some red flags to really convict my heart that what I was doing was not honoring Him as a Christian. And that's not what His plan for me was in that season. And it was a huge decision. Just to let go of staff, to say no, to taper off the projects, to let go of that and move into, at that time, we started, Sang and I started the Bangkok Christian Discipleship Center. That was a huge leap of faith, a crisis of faith in our lives, but that made that big choice and that big change. Really, now we're seeing the fruit of that many years after, and we pray that we continue to see the fruit, even though it's not easy, even though you don't really know what the full picture is, but you just take that next faithful step in that, making that next change in your life, in asking God to give you wisdom to make that next choice. He will honor that and see you through. So I want to encourage you that as you're reflecting on your life here right now, this hour, are there any changes that you need to make personally to really be faithful to God's calling on your life to serve better? So just to remind you that to serve, you really need to know how to invest in these 3 pillars of physical wellness. Where do you need to make changes, specifically in the areas of movement, daily living, your nutrition, your rest? How well, what choices you make in these areas will really affect the energy that you have to serve well. And here's one way to think of margin. It's just a model to think of it in a simple way. Margin equals power minus load. When we have more power, we have more energy. More than load, we have surplus. We have an energy surplus. When our load is heavier than the power or the energy that we have an energy deficit. So in terms of the 3 areas I'm going to touch on, but really focusing on physical, we have the emotional, we have the financial, and we have the physical. Now, in the equation for emotional surplus or deficit, we can think of it this way: how we fill up our emotional tank, how we really refresh our relationships, is to think about the balance between our Christ-centered relationships and our worldly relationships. And I'm really blessed to be able to talk to a group of Christian fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, because I feel more freedom to share about this. Because when I'm talking to people who don't yet follow Jesus, it's kind of hard to get to the heart of the issue, right? When they feel drained relationally, you just want to tell them, you just have to first and foremost have a relationship with Jesus. So as now that we are all Christians, we can really think about the relationships that we have. Do we have more Christ-centered relationships? than worldly relationships. Yes, we are to have connections. We have areas of influence in our lives. We want to reach out to people who don't know Jesus. But do we have more of those relationships that may be draining because they're pulling us or influencing us in the ways of the world? Or do we have more Christ-centered relationships and fellowships to really nourish our emotional tanks? Now, financially, it's a balance between your sources of income and your luxury expenses. What are some nourishing financial activities that generate income for you? And what are some draining financial activities that really drain unnecessarily your money, where you can be using that in another way? And physically, this is where I want you guys to really think about today, just for the purpose of this workshop, your physical energy surplus and margins. So the energy comes from your choices to invest in daily movement, daily activity, eating nutritious foods, nutrient-dense food, and getting enough rest. That's where you're nourishing yourself. And then the draining activities happens when you're not really taking care of your rest. You're not sleeping enough, you're not sleeping well, and you're not eating nutrient-dense food. So here, if you go into your breakout rooms and really talk about what are some nourishing activities that will feed your body through movement, through nutrition, through rest, and what are some activities that really drain you physically, that affect your sleep, affect your nutrient intake? Okay, Marcus can open up the breakout rooms, please.
Okay.
And give yourself 10 minutes to do this. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for really sharing these really great insights. I'm really blessed to hear everybody share. So this is my example. Oops. So everybody is different, right? How you go to different activities, what you resort to will be a little different. So for me, I am an ambivert. I'm not sure you guys know what that means, but you've heard of introvert and extroverts, and everybody's somewhere in between. I'm more of an ambivert. So I like people, I love people, but I do need personal time to refresh and refuel and just, reserve that a little bit, that social reserve I need for myself. So I'm in somewhere in the middle. So for me as an ambivert, emotionally, my refreshing and energizing interactions are my family, my husband, kids, my life group. It's just supernatural that our life group meets every Friday. And sometimes, at the end of the week, it's a long week and you feel like I want to make an excuse and not go to life group. But, when you go to life group at the end of it, 9:30, you feel refreshed. There's this supernatural infilling because you're with children of God. You're encouraging each other. You're praying for one another. So that fills me emotionally and also physically, and definitely time with God, worship, prayer, and Bible study. Honestly, I could say the Bible the whole day and not do anything. But yes, I have to do other things because we're responsible for stuff in life. But being in the Word really, really energizes me. Some draining relationships, definitely worldly relationships. I still have friends who are in the world, and I pray for them. I love them. But if I spend way too much time with them in comparison to my Christian family, then I will feel a little drained. And difficult people, I think we know, drain us as well. Now, finances, sources of income is work, and dining out too often is a luxury. Dining out is a luxury, and it is a splurge. So those are some, if we do too much, definitely is going to be a draining activity on our finances. Now, physically, worship supernaturally just really energizes me, eating nutrient-dense food, good hydration, drinking water, sleeping before 10:30 p.m. I know that's kind of like my mark. If I sleep after that, I get really tired in the morning. Exercising just enough, not too much, that I can actually have energy to do something else afterwards and not be totally drained. And taking my supplements. Activities that prevent me from getting enough rest is just too much social media, working too late. So I love social media. I use it as a tool to share stuff that's going on in my life. I use it to connect with people in my life. I love it. But then again, you can get kind of dragged into that black hole for too long every day. So it's good to know your limits. And I like what Kevin does, 9:30 cutoff time. I don't think I'll be there, maybe a little later, but it's definitely a good idea to come up with a time, decide on a time that you want to cut off your social media. And too many meetings in one day definitely drains me. So I need to recognize that if I'm going to, yes, can I fit in 10 meetings in a day? Time-wise, sure, I could, but am I going to be fully present for those meetings? Am I going to perform well for those meetings? Maybe not. So everybody knows themselves. What is your limit for interaction with different people per day? It's all about recognizing who you are and how much you can handle. And it's okay to ask for help if you feel like any of these areas are out of your control. If you feel like right now my emotional, my relational health is just really bad, I'm feeling really down and I just don't feel good. I don't know what's going on. Those kind of questions that come into your mind should trigger you to reach out for help. Reach out to somebody. There's always somebody that God can send your way to help you through, to talk through these things. So make sure that allow yourself, give yourself permission to ask for help and make changes to your life, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health. It's really about healing your energy leaks. Now, as we're talking about serving, and all of you are serving people in one way or another, we are drawing from God to serve to others. But there are times when you need to just shut off these pipes right now. You just need to shut off the faucet because you're going through something. You lost a loved one. You're going through a crisis in your life where you just really need to be filled by God and just take care of yourself first. And if you're there, it's okay to heal your energy leaks before flowing out because you can't do everything in your own energy. It's okay to step back. If you're feeling burnt out, try to see what areas you can just stop. If you can't serve at church and you've been serving consistently, faithfully, but now you're just drained and you're not serving from God, you're just serving in your own strength, you're loving in your own strength, then maybe you need to say, I need to step back and heal my energy leaks before I serve again. It's okay to take a Sabbath. So question I want you to remember, even after this workshop, are you serving out of guilt? Because guilt sucks the life out of you, but grace restores life. We want to choose to serve from a place of overflowing grace. So my example of serving out of guilt, so I'm a deacon at my church. I also serve crosstown when we were doing in person. So I do the worship across town for kids 4, 5, and 6. They're really fun. I love doing the worship for these kids. You get to dance, you get to do, be really silly with kids. There's no other place where you can be that silly, right? So I love serving. But there was one Sunday where on the Saturday before that, I was sick. So I was not getting enough calories. I was feeling really, really sick. I wasn't eating enough. And Sunday morning came and we had to get the kids ready. So again, I didn't have any breakfast. So I don't know how much calories I was operating off on, but it was just I was really tired. But I knew that I had to go serve across town because I didn't want to, let the kids down. I really wanted to see the kids. And it was fine. I went and I sang, I danced and everything. It was fine. But then somebody wanted to meet me downstairs at the church and it was really hot. So it was outside and we have these tents right outside and it gets really hot and humid. And they were talking to me for a while and I was feeling a little dizzy. It's like, I feel like I need to faint. So I was making my way to the restroom. I'm going to go to the restroom and just rest for a while. I didn't even make it to the restroom. I fainted on the side of the sidewalk. Thankfully, my head did not hit the floor. Somehow I was able to just sit. When I opened my eyes again, there was a pastor there asking if I was okay. But that's an example of serving out of guilt. And that was a huge reminder for me that God wanted to remind me, don't serve if you feel guilty, because this is the consequence. You were trying to serve out of your own physical energy. You were not, drawing your energy from me. And I was serving from a place of guilt and not of grace. So we don't have the ability to control the size of our big bowl, but we do have the ability to control the size of our small bowls. So here is an example that I showed you in the very beginning, that each small bowl, go back. So each small bowl, this model, just for illustration purposes, it's the same size, but you will go home. Your homework is actually to do your own model, and you're going to draw out what size your bowls are. What is the size of your family and friends? What is the size of your work? the size of your church, the size of your community in terms of the energy you're giving into those areas of life. And each area of your life may be segmented from one another. They may be totally separate, but some of them can overlap, right? Maybe your church and your community overlap. And I'll show you a few of those models here. So here you are definitely too full. These bowls are literally overflowing your energy tank, your life here. Your church and your work are overlapping. It's huge. So the sizes of these bowls will actually change based on the seasons of your life. Now let's see if you can identify with any of these examples. So this is a married executive in the marketplace. So work takes up most of the space. So it's also important for us to notice the margins. You see the brown area here? This is the margin. It's important for us to have margins because as different things happen in our life, we can accommodate for different changes. So if your church requires you to serve, maybe they ask you to serve on a Sunday, you have some margins to serve, so you're willing to go serve. Or if your family and friends have an emergency they need your help with, then you can serve them if you have margins. When you don't have margins, you don't have room to serve other people. This is a model of maybe a missional business person, an elder, a deacon, or a lay leader, maybe a Christmas and Easter only Christian who has separated church from his regular life, an active retiree. These printouts will be sent to you so you don't have to jot these down. So this is basically different seasons. You'll see how it looks differently. But all in all, we want to move from a place where we're living this messy life, messy bowl, into a nice, more appetizing looking bowl that we're able to eat gracefully off and we're able to manage well. So your homework is to go and create a visual energy margin budget for yourself. Okay. So I hope that you've been able to reframe the problems that we call time management and work-life balance in a more helpful way. And you've been given some practical ways to identify your energy deficits, your energy surpluses, your energy margins. And you've always been reminded that your energy, your strength, your power comes from the one true life giver, who is our Lord God, creator of the heavens and the earth. And so it comes down to one thing, really the most one vital thing, which is our relationship with Christ. It's really not about seeking balance between the different areas of life. If you notice that these models of energy flows and margins, they're not really about balancing different segments in your life. I hope you've seen that you are each one whole person, right? You have one life to live here on earth, and we have one God, one master, and we always need to keep our eyes on him and serve him with love for his glory. And so I pray Romans 15:13 for you, that the God of hope will fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that you will abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Thank you. And so here I just want to open the floor up with your takeaways. How were you challenged today? And what were some of your takeaways? And Marcus, if you can facilitate this part. Thank you.
I'll just want to say thank you, Siree, for today's workshop, and thank you everyone for joining us as well. But I hope, I know this has been really insightful for me, and I hope that everyone else has found it as similar as well. I think we can all hopefully come away with tools that are really going to benefit us all in the future. Just let you know that we, as Talent Trust, we're hoping to produce more of these workshops over the next few months. We're looking at appropriate resources that can support you better. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, this went out on several channels. If anyone wants any information about Talent Trust, you can see that at our website, which is www.talent-trust.com. That's talent-trust.com. Also, if any of you would like any information on our FiTT service, I know a lot of people have talked about health and fitness, like doing fitness stuff. We have a program that we're launching for that. It's currently in a pilot phase. I mentioned that at the very beginning. So that FiTT information will be going live on our website in the next few days. FiTT's available it's free and it's available to all missionaries. People don't have to be a Talent Trust member anyway. So that's going to be a great resource for a lot of people. So I guess just in finishing, just want to say, thanks once again to Siree. Yes, this has been really great. And thank you everyone for joining us as well. So have a great day.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
stay
everyone.
safe.
And
everyone.
Bye-bye.
bye.